How's it going, everyone? It's Johnny Bean here with another special episode of the Streamer Stories podcast. My guest today is Alistair Aitcheson. How you doing?
Hello. Yeah, doing well. Doing very well, thanks.
Thanks so much for being on this podcast. Really appreciate it. Yeah. I love your background, by the way. I haven't actually commented on that at all, have I? It's so awesome.
Cheers.
Fair play. Do you want to introduce yourself to anyone who doesn't know who you are?
My name's Alistair. I'm a game developer and performer. I do interactive stage shows. I do, and I guess on Twitch, what I do is I live stream. It's a mix of things, sort of a lot of kind of hacking around with Sonic the Hedgehog and classic consoles and, classic console emulators to sort of get weird effects and sort of change the games, add different dynamics and things. And I also do these kind of creativity streams. So, this painting behind us here, that's a painting that I made with my viewers on a live stream just before Christmas. I've done like dancing streams where I'm dancing and the audience types the dance moves into chat and the computer mixes them together into a choreography and I just try to keep dancing for 2 hours. Reading streams where I'll be reading a book like Winnie the Pooh or Wind in the Willows or something like that. And the audience can type into Twitch chat to edit the text of the book while I'm reading it. Things like that.
It's just, wow. it's so much, but it's so amazing. And that's what I loved your stuff. I really did. I missed the live stream of the painting.
Right.
I saw you post. I was like, I missed him. So
yeah, I mean, I do kind of sort of, I don't have a regular schedule. I tend to come on fairly sporadically. Like often for me, it's kind of like I'll often go on because I want to test some new material or something. Like, I've got because the painting and the dancing and the reading, they are all part of a game that I've made. Called Bartholomew Videos Stream Challenge. I like titles that are a bit of a mouthful. In Bartholomew Video, you can anyone can download this for free, and they run it on their computer. It'll handle all the webcams and things like that, and connect to Twitch for you to handle doing all of these strange interactive creative experiences where you're kind of collaborating with your audience. And so often, like, I'll be changing something. I'll be like, I've got a new idea for a kind of creative activity for us, or a different challenge, or, here's some tweaks I want to make to it, or, here's a way we could kind of twist it and turn it on its head. And that's usually my impetus to jump onto a stream and say, all right, who wants to help me test this thing out? But then sometimes I just do it because I've got a free Saturday evening and it's fun.
Wow. Amazing. But there's so much we could talk about there, but we will start at the beginning. So we'll talk about wow. Well, this outburst of creativity's got to come from somewhere. So let's talk about childhood then. So, were you a video game fan growing up, and what were your go-tos if so?
I was a massive video game fan growing up. Yeah, for me it was Sonic the Hedgehog. So you can see down there, I've got a little Sonic the Hedgehog wearing a clown nose. Two of my great passions in life, Sonic the Hedgehog and clowning. We got a Sega Mega Drive, me and my brother. I would have been 5. No, sorry, not Mega Drive, Master System. For Christmas when I was 5, and it had Sonic 1 built in, and that game just blew my mind. I was Sonic mad ever since, and even we got the Mega Drive a few years later, and then we didn't bother with the Saturn, it kind of sort of fizzled out, but not entirely. It was always, I always still had that kind of, we still got the comics, Sonic the Comic, mm-hmm. And I had Sonic CD on the PC, Sonic R on the PC, so I was still kind of Sonic mad even when the Mega Drive wasn't current, but kind of rediscovered it again on the GameCube, Sonic Adventure 2. Not to say I wasn't playing other games, but I think Sonic has just been a bit of a kind of constant for me. I think like there's a lot of games that, like, you know, I don't have great stickability with games. I think when I was a teenager, I was the kind of, I was the kind of player who could, who would 100% everything he played.
Okay, yeah.
And these days, like, it's not uncommon for me to play 1 or 2 hours of a game, go, oh, that was really good, I'm looking forward to playing more of that, and then just never touch it again.
Yeah.
No particular reason, but Sonic, for whatever reason, I think maybe it's the familiarity, maybe it's the warm hug of childhood, but I'll always keep on coming back to it, Yeah. Even if I'm not enjoying it that much, I'll see it through to the end and see, okay, but where is this going? And it's a weird thing. I think, like, that kind of the warm hug of kind of connection. I don't know. That can do something that gives you something nice.
Yeah, 100%. And I have a similar pull with Sonic as well. It was probably my first big video game love as well. And
right.
Yeah, like I can't remember if I mentioned it on a previous podcast, but like last year, it was 2 years ago now. Goodness, what is time? But like there was the whole 30th anniversary, like toys and Smiths and stuff like that, and my kids were going, "Oh my god, Dad, these toys look amazing." Yeah. I'm like, "Yes, they do."
Well, is that the amazing one? The Death Egg robot,
yes,
the one that you could fight. Oh, that looked incredible.
It looked so good, and like I'm maybe a bit of a boomer or something, but I don't like the newer designs really much. So seeing the old school designs, they look like toys that you would have bought in the 90s, and I was like, oh my god, that's like a shot to the heart of nostalgia for me to seeing those toys.
There is a kind of funny thing about the kind of the video game toys and memorabilia and stuff. They are making the stuff that you had dreamed of existing when you were a kid. And I think there is a thing when you were a kid and you were really into something and you'd want the toy of it for Christmas, and a lot of the time it would be a bit rubbish. Like I have a very strong attachment to my Sonic and Tails cuddly toys. They were brilliant. But I had some toys, like there was this Gladiators. I had the Gladiators Pugil Stick Duel game. I don't know if you ever watched Gladiators.
Yes, I did. Yeah. It's coming back.
Yeah, but I remember getting the toy, and they just kind of rocked back and forth and did this, and it was nowhere near as good as the adverts, like as what I'd kind of dreamt of this thing being when I asked Santa for it. But I think you look at the kind of the toys that come out now, like that Death Egg robot, and they are making the kind of toys that you dreamed of existing as a child, and yet somehow, oh no, they're actually good now.
Well, I was about to, you say that. My son got a Robotnik. Oh yes, a Robotnik Eggman. Anyway, I'm Robotnik.
So okay, it was Robotnik growing up for me, but I've come to accept Eggman. It also sounds funny. So one of the stage shows that I've done in the past, it was made up of Sonic hacks, and I'd be dressed up as Dr. Robotnik for it. But I called it the Scrambled Eggman Show because Eggman's just a funnier name. If you want to be hosting a show as a fun character, Eggman is a fun name. So, and ever since then, Eggman's kind of stuck a little bit for me.
It rolls off the tongue better when you say it like that. Actually, yeah, you're right. Yeah. But yeah, my son got like an Eggman like toy for Christmas just gone, and it's you put like Robotnik in his machine, the classic Robotnik machine or Eggman machine, and it pops out. You can't get it in properly. Oh, no. So me and my wife would put it in, like, there you go, have a play with that. Like 2 minutes, pop, it's gone out. It's like, oh, for God's sake, we got to do it again, and it just wouldn't stick. So I don't know if toys have gone better. But,
right? Okay.
Maybe not. I don't know.
I mean, maybe it's just the ones that they market to adults. I mean, maybe that's why they kind of, why they're so successful or they sell so well. It's like, the ones that cost you £200, those aren't made for kids. Those are made for grown-ups.
Yes.
Because for the grown-ups, they want to say, oh yeah, this is the toy you dreamed of having when you were a kid. Whereas kids, they don't have that dream. Give them some plastic tap. They'll be fine. They've got imagination.
100%. Yeah. But wow, so Sonic Master System was like the first love. So what was the difference for you then between playing Sonic the Hedgehog on Master System and then going to Sonic the Hedgehog on Mega Drive then? What was that jump for you?
Blew my mind. Yeah, no, my cousins had it like so I had two older cousins living up in Scotland. I grew up in the southwest. And so we'd go and visit them for like, Easter holidays and things like that. And it was always like this massive excitement of getting to play Sonic on the Mega Drive and it being just this utterly mind-blowing experience. And then my cousins, they'd go, "Oh, do you want to play something else? Do you want to maybe play Micro Machines or something?" But I think, I don't know, this has got, going back deep into the recesses of my memory, but I feel like you needed to drag me away from Mega Drive Sonic.
Yeah. What was ultimately your favorite then Sonic game in the franchise? Or was that a hard question?
That is a very hard question. So like definitely from that era, I would say Sonic and Knuckles was like the best one. But since then, like I think Sonic Mania is even better. Like they the makers of that game outdid what the original Sonic games were doing. They took Sonic and Knuckles and pushed it one step beyond. So that was really special. Sonic Colors on the Wii is a personal favorite of mine. It's one of these games that it was all right first time through, and then once I started getting the S ranks, like that is, that's when that game came alive for me, because it went from being a kind of get to the end of the level kind of, yeah, this is fairly straightforward, to, oh no, now you have to route it. Now you have to find, okay, there is a perfect path through this level. I need to get this many red coins and get to the ending within this many seconds or this many minutes. And so it's kind of like Tony Hawk's or something, where you're kind of planning out the perfect route, but then you've got to execute it. So Sonic Colors for me is a real special game for that thing. But it's another example of, like, I'm sure there's lots of great games that do stuff like that I never discover that thing about it, because the only reason I came back to get all the S ranks is because it was Sonic. So
yeah.
And I think more fool me, probably. I'm probably missing out on a ton of great experiences, but I mean, I'm enjoying myself.
That's what matters, isn't it? That's what matters. So you mentioned the Master System, Mega Drive. You missed the Saturn. Did you go Dreamcast? Did you go PC?
No, it was, so I guess, between, I think, when the Dreamcast came out, it was that kind of, the Dreamcast looked kind of exciting, but it was a bit expensive. And instead I got an N64 secondhand, 30 quid with GoldenEye. So that sort of, I kind of joined the Nintendo fold at that point, which was crossing a threshold. Back in the day, I was a Sega boy. That's you have to kind of admit defeat at some point. The N64 is great. Then went on GameCube after that. Unfortunately, the Sonic games came and joined me.
Yeah, it's funny though, isn't it? Because like I think they would say there's people perhaps younger than us, shall I say, who don't realize the importance of like Sonic and Mario at the Olympics and stuff like that. That was a massive, it was a massive thing back in those days. That could never have happened. And then it's happening? What?
I mean, we're talking about it like it's the end of the Cold War or something, and it's just a marketing ploy. Like, the whole thing is just marketing. Like,
I mean, I don't know about yourself, but I'm a massive wrestling fan, so it was like WCW being bought by WWF at the time.
Right.
So, but it was, but I don't think they realised how big that was at the time, for sure. So Nintendo. So what other games did you play then in those eras of video game history?
I guess like in that kind of like between the Mega Drive and the N64 was so PC played a lot of Worms, really like Worms. Worms 2 and Worms Armageddon.
Yes.
Like absolute classics.
Yep.
And then N64. I didn't have a lot of games on the N64, but I don't think anyone did back then. I think there was a point at which secondhand games got really cheap, and so did new games like that. The GameCube era, and maybe it was just being a bit older and having a bit more disposable income. Like because the GameCube for me, that was that's what I had as a teenager. So I had most of my physical copies of games are on GameCube. The N64 I only had a few, but Mario Tennis, Mario 64, Conker's Bad Fur Day, GoldenEye, obviously. I 101%ed Donkey Kong 64.
Nice.
And which I it's one of these things like that kind of game. I really, really loved it. And then it was like the next one I tried to play after Donkey Kong 64. No, I can't be doing this collecting thing anymore. I'm full.
Oh, man. Oh, you're just mentioning Worms, though. It's an underappreciated gem, and I just don't think it's been the same since. I mean, 3D Worms is fine, but like there was something really special about that Worms Armageddon, Worms 2.
Yeah.
For me, it's the perfect Worms game. And I've just got an Xbox Series S now, and I'm like, Worms, I want to play Worms, and like there's no Worms 2, no Worms Armageddon. They released them on the arcade on the Xbox 360. I was like, please have it on the new Xbox, and nope, can't play it. I'm like, the only way I can get my fix is on PC now. I love Worms Armageddon and 2.
Yeah.
What was your weapon of choice?
So, I mean, I'll be honest, I got to that point, and I think there is this point with a lot of games, like so like with Halo, I used to play a lot of like Halo LAN, up to 16 players. I don't think we ever had 16 players, but around that time I had a friend who like was very good with like network computer stuff, so he had it hooked up to a wireless network and stuff, and we'd teams upstairs versus downstairs. And I know I'm digressing, but the point is we got to the point where the handgun was the best weapon, like the pistol, and there was no point in using any other weapon. All other weapons were inferior to the pistol because we could get 3 headshots, like because that's what you needed to get a kill. 3 headshots with the pistol, and we could get it like that. Like even me, I didn't own one. I was a bit rubbish at it, and even I got to the point where it was like, why would I take a shotgun? The pistol's the best weapon. And I kind of reached a point with that with Worms Armageddon, where it's like the bazooka was good for everything. You've got the wind. I can figure out the trajectory it's going to go to. I can get you from halfway across the map. Like,
oh my god!
I think that playing with that kind of that obsession and that amount of free time that you have as a young teenager, like, I can't. How old would it be? I guess it would have been about 11 or 12 or something when I was playing Worms Armageddon. And the amount of free time you have to spend getting good at that. But bazooka.
Yeah, I could never do the wind trajectory on the bazooka. No. I used to with Worms Armageddon, I think it was. I used to play Arms Race. Because you'd slowly. Yeah, you just slowly unlock the weapons basically as time went on. So you started off with literally you'd start off with a prod, and then you get like the blowtorch, and then you'd get like your handgun, and then obviously later on you got your holy hand grenade and your super sheep and all that stuff. So it just build up, and then by the time you got to that part of the game with Arms Race, because if you put time settings on, I used to like to set like 15-minute time limits. So then the water was rising, you had 1 health, all that stuff. So it was just bedlam towards the end.
That sounds awesome. Was that playing with friends or playing
Yeah.
against a computer?
Yeah, locally playing friends. Just
Right.
four of us in the living room. Good times.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's it. I was mostly playing it on my own, so it was kind of that sort of like, I think it was like, because the single player, the missions and challenges and stuff, the single player stuff in Worms Armageddon was really vast. Like, it wasn't that much different to Worms 2, for the multiplayer, but for the single player, it was just absolutely packed with stuff. And so I think I was playing those challenge modes like obsessively. And I think you kind of like, they trained you, like they were designed to train you to be able to make epic shots using the wind and the bazooka and to fling yourself halfway across the map with the ninja rope and things like that.
Well, that was, again, back to how we played locally. That would be the thing we would try to do when the water was rising and you had 1 health and stuff like that. It's ninja rope. Just, you had 60 seconds to use the ninja rope. How far can you get across the map? And then of course, if you did somehow successfully do it, you would use the prod just because you'd right on the edge of the map. Boop, up you go, bye, type of thing. And
sometimes it's the best weapon.
Oh yeah, and I used to suck at it. So people are like, oh, here he goes again. Johnny's off again. Let's see just how this pans out. Yeah, laughter all around. Oh, such a good game. Such a good game. Oh, so you mentioned cousins. You mentioned brother. So did you play with family much growing up?
Yeah, so I've got one older brother, 2 years older than me. Cousins and things, like we didn't see them that often. It was usually like maybe, like once or twice a year. Because we'd have to drive all the way up to Scotland to see them. So it was a big trip. But playing with my brother, we used to play a lot together on the Mega Drive, like Sonic 2 and Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, which is the origin of this hoodie.
Yeah. Wow.
And custom printed. So that's a whole story I could tell you. But we used to play, and it was, he was 2 years older than me, so he would usually win. But there was a point at which, like, I sort of started to overtake him. It was almost like and it was sort of towards the end when the Mega Drive was kind of reaching the end of its time for us, and it was more like, and I think I was just spending more time on it than he was. But it was like the bit in Naruto where Sasuke realizes that Naruto's got better than him, that kind of thing, where suddenly I was better at Sonic 2 and Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine than my brother. And I don't think that's why we stopped playing so much multiplayer together. I mean, we did play some things. Mario Tennis was a big one for us. I don't remember us playing a lot together until once we were both at university and we'd come back for the holidays. And then that was like Puyo Pot Fever on the GameCube. Again, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine making its return. And I've just mentioned Naruto. This is entirely subconscious something going on, but we had one of the Naruto beat 'em ups on GameCube, Naruto Gekitu Ninja Tyson 4, which is an amazing fighting game. Like, it is so good. And I could sing that praise. I could get into a whole thing about why that game is so good, because it does stuff that other beat 'em ups don't do, sort of fighting games don't do. But yeah, and we kind of rediscovered playing games together, I guess, as adults.
Yeah, amazing. No, yeah. So is there like a worst game that comes to mind? So like, you mentioned so many amazing games here, let's be honest, but I mean, like, is there a game that you did pick up and went, you know what, no, this is not good. This is not good. Or is that not something that really comes into your mental state, so to speak? Some people struggle with that question. It's like I don't want to be
It's a tough
negative.
one. Like it's a tough one because I can, and I think the thing is with the worst game, you probably wouldn't have played that much of it. That's why it's a difficult question because it's like, well, I don't know, maybe it gets better after the first half hour, but the first half hour was so bad it put me off. And I think there's tons of games that have been like that. I mean, I think there is a kind of a worst trait in games. Games these, I guess more recent games, like from kind of, I guess GameCube era onwards, that the trait that usually puts me off playing a game, and it's not necessarily to do with it like being bad. It's just bad for me. Is games that, and I'm guilty of this evidently because of that whole long introduction I've given. Games that don't cut to the chase. I like it when a game, it throws you into the action. Show me what the best bit is first. Show me, get me doing the cool stuff now. I really don't like games where, you spend the first hour getting talked at. Yeah. Like, that's a real, real turn off for me. I could, there could be a game and it's like, okay, I'm sure this is brilliant. Loads of people are saying this game is brilliant, but I've sat with this for the first hour and it has just talked at me. And I kind of don't feel like spending another hour of it talking at me to find out if after that point I get to do stuff, which evidently I do. I've seen pictures of people doing stuff. I've seen video of people doing stuff, but I could do something else. And there's a lot of a game that, I think there are games like a game that doesn't do that I really, really like is Zelda Breath of the Wild. And if you compare that to a lot of I think I'd kind of, I loved Zelda, but I ended up kind of sort of getting put off the series because it felt like I was kind of going through the motions with it. And, you compare you compare Breath of the Wild to other Zelda games, and it's like, it puts you in, you got a little tutorial cave where you just have to get out of the cave, and then boom, you're running around exploring, doing the kind of, run around in your underpants and steal a stick so you can whack a guy and take his sword. And, that is an example of a game that does it very well. From a series that I would argue is quite bad at cutting to the chase, not to say it's a bad series. I think Zelda's a great series, but I'm used to it taking a while to get started.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think again that comes to mind when you're explaining that side of things is I love Persona, the RPG games, but oh my god, it's like 4-hour tutorials basically for Persona 4 and 5. I mean, I don't mind that, but you are right, it's not for everyone. Yeah,
but I mean, I think Persona 4 for me kind of was a really good example of a game that kind of got away with doing that. Because it kind of talks at you for an hour, but it starts with a murder.
Yes. Not just any murder.
Now you've got me interested in the story. That's yes, you're going to be telling me a story, but I'm interested in the story. I want to find out who did the murder.
Yes. That's a good example. Yeah, good point. Oh, yeah. No, that's fair. That's completely fair. And you are right. There's so many games guilty of that, let's be honest. Yeah. So, I mean... So, what are you playing right now? Offline, online? What are you playing?
So I've kind of not got anything current at the moment. I'm kind of sort of noodling with the new Pokemon game. I'm kind of noodling with Sonic Frontiers. Neither of them has massively captured my imagination. Okay. But they are kind of. This is going to sound really disparaging, but they are nice, pleasant, fairly mindless experiences. That I can just kind of switch off and just kind of, noodle with. Just kind of okay. I'm gonna do another gym now, and it's going to be fairly straightforward because I insisted on going to the hardest gym first, and now my team's over leveled. So but it's nice to see the colors and the characters and that, and there's nothing for me that sort of I'm currently going back to a lot, and that's fine. I think like I say, I kind of I don't know, it takes something special to get me hooked, but I'll usually find one or two games in a year that absolutely sink their teeth into me, and go, oh, this is brilliant, I'm so glad I played this. And I guess for the time you don't spend massively immersed in games, the ones that do massively immerse you, you really value it.
Yeah, for sure. No, I've not played a new Pokemon yet, but I've heard I think you alluded to it, didn't you? You can pretty much choose what order you do the gyms in, can't you?
Yes.
That's that's a whole new concept. I've not when I heard about that. So I've not. My last Pokemon game was Pokemon Black, so I'm going back a bit.
Right.
Now, so
yeah, well, it's quite nice. I mean, I think I didn't play a Pokemon game between Gold and Silver and Pokemon X, X and Y. So when I got there was Pokemon Y I had, and I got that in 2016 or something. So it had been 15 years since I played a Pokemon game. And it was great because it was when I played the first Pokemon, I had Pokemon Blue, and it was I got it. I was in this wonderful sweet spot. I got it for my birthday. My birthday was in the half-term holidays, and it was that half-term holidays when the cartoon came on TV.
Wow, yeah.
So I get this game. No one had any idea what Pokemon was. I had no idea what Pokemon was, just that it was really popular in Japan and America, and now it was out over here, and I was like, well, I need to find out what this thing is. And so you get the game, and it's like, what's that? What's that? Oh, I want one of those. Oh, there's pictures of them. There's 150 slots in this manual, and most of the slots are empty. So what are they and stuff? And finding out about Pokemon, knowing nothing about it, every creature was new, and all the mechanics were new and mysterious. Going to Pokemon Y after a 15-year gap away from Pokemon, it feels like coming back anew again. Is all the creatures are new. There's all these mechanics that you don't know about. It's I can dress up as well. Oh, that's fun. So I think it's a good way to play it, to be honest, is leave it for a while, leave it for a few generations and come back to it.
Yeah, true. Yeah. I just you mentioned that, it kind of reminds me of it's playing FIFA, actually. Was everyone we all know every FIFA comes out every year, doesn't it, and all that stuff. But I tend to spend 4 years between each FIFA game, and when I play the one afterwards, I'm like, oh, it's very different to the last one. But obviously all these little subtle changes every year. But everyone going, it's the same game as last year. But it's no, it's not for me. So similar. But yeah, I do need to play more Pokemon. I played a couple of games on stream, but I'm slowly catching up. I don't know. I've been debating, do I go to Black 2 or do I go to the next gen, which I think is X and Y, I think, isn't it, actually? So
yes, that's right.
So. But yeah, I'll see. So you mentioned before about going to the hilt, 101% things, stuff like that. Are you someone that does get achievements, trophies, platinums?
Not anymore. No. I mean, there are games that I will play kind of obsessively. And have to tell myself to stop. Smash Ultimate was one. Puyo Puyo Tetris was another. Civilization 1, a game I rediscovered during the pandemic. That's another one. But for me, it's never it's never really a thing of I think, and all of those games share a kind of a common thread with them in that, Smash Ultimate and Puyo Puyo Tetris, the attraction for me was playing online. And you can try and get better and better so you can get higher and higher up the rankings, but you're never going to 100% the rankings, unless you're the best player in the world. Only one person gets to 100% multiplayer Smash or, multiplayer Puyo Puyo Tetris. and then with Civ 1, again, this was a game I just started playing obsessively during lockdown. And like the hardest difficulty, the computer cheats.
Okay.
And that's like, when I got to the sort of the level of ability where it's like, okay, no, I think I could take on the hardest difficulty. And I read online, people saying, oh yeah, the computer cheats. And I'm going, oh, you're just whining and complaining. You need to get good or whatever. And I'm like, yeah. And yeah, maybe it does cheat, but that's part of the challenge. It's like, okay, can I beat a computer player that doesn't play by the rules? And no. The computer really cheats. Like, where I am not setting beating Civ 1 as an achievement I need to achieve in my life, because no, it's is it basically RNG, or is it that you have to make a pact with God or something? Like, here's how it cheated me. The victory condition: you can either get world domination or you can send a rocket to Alpha Centauri. So I was doing really well. I was ahead of everyone. I started building my rocket. I'm doing well. Then suddenly, I think it was like the Babylonians started building their rocket to Alpha Centauri. And they built their rocket to Alpha Centauri, built it so fast, and then launched it. Then they took one of my cities. And one of the things is, when you take a city in Civilization, you get to steal one of whoever you taken the city from, you get to steal one of their technologies. They stole the technology that you require to build rockets in the first place.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm happy. I was like, you know what? I have done the amount of beating Civ 1 that I actually want to.
Fair enough. Okay, so if you were stuck on a remote island, and you can only have 3 games the rest of your life on that island, because you're stuck on it, I'm afraid, for life, but you can have internet connection. I think that's very important.
Okay.
What would those 3 games be, and why?
So that's okay. So that, because the ones I probably would have taken, despite the sort of the competitive obsession having caused me to have to stop playing them, Puyo Puyo Tetris and Smash Ultimate would have been on there. But okay, I definitely put Civ 1 on that list, because that is a game I can keep on coming back to again and again, and I don't mind playing it on not the hardest difficulty, and I know I'm going to win because I can set myself my own like meta challenges and things like that. And I think that would probably be part of it. Like, I think a game with a kind of distinct, beginning and ending, like, that wouldn't work for me on a desert island. Like, I love Breath of the Wild. It is one of my favorite games of all time, but even that has a finite limit to what you can find to do in it, maybe. But something like Civ 1, I kind of, on a similar note, I reckon SimCity 2000 might be on that list. And I'm saying the old ones that I've played before, because I actually, what if I say Civ 6 or something, and then I end up not liking Civ 6, and I'm on this desert island with this like version of the game that I just don't like as much. Like, you just grab the one I trust.
You just like, the new one. Yes. No. Sorry.
What? Yeah. Okay, so I need one more game, and it has to be single player as well. Because I was like, okay, board games, no, because I want to play them with other people.
Yeah.
Well, like, you can play even online. Something like the Wordle. I like, the Wordle and the Quordle. Quordle is, in my opinion, the best version of Wordle, and I could go on a whole long tangent about that. But it's not the same if you can't share it with your friends and family.
No. No.
So, oh god, okay, you know what? Is there a way I could get just a blind box thing? Whoever is shipping me off to the desert island, I want them to get, like, I don't know, some game with the label torn off or something. I want some dodgy pirate CD for Sega Saturn. That's what I want. Yeah. I want a dodgy Sega Saturn pirate CD. And I will find out what's on it when I get to the island, and I will try to make my own fun out of it.
Yeah, sure. We're all making it up anyway as we go, aren't we? So no. But yeah, no, because you mentioned because you can play online, so you can play multiplayer online. So that dynamic can happen, can't it? If you're online, so I have had people say that like Smash or something like that could work.
Right. I am allowed to play online. You got online internet connection.
No, you got internet. Sorry. You do have internet connection.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm chucking that. No, actually, keep this disc because I can use the dodgy pirate Saturn disc to kind of as a signal to flash for help.
There you go.
So yes. I am going to keep that. And I'll probably it'll be a choice between Puyo Tetris and Smash Ultimate. Civ 1 is coming with me. I'll probably take Smash Ultimate out of the two. Just feels like it's got more options to it.
Yeah, there we go. So what made you think about streaming then? So, I mean, the streams are so creative, as we talked about before, and we're going to definitely talk about, shortly, aren't we? But what was the moment? Was it pandemic related? Was it something else? Was it pre-pandemic? What was the moment?
Pre-pandemic, but like just pre-pandemic, like I would say like January 2020 or something. I'll be honest, I started streaming to make like video art. And like I think the first stream that I did, I kind of told friends on Facebook I was doing it, but I kind of had no kind of real intention of there being an audience there. But it was just, well, this is a convenient way to record it, and it's a convenient way for people to watch it. If they want to watch it live, they can watch it live. If they want to watch the recording afterwards, they can watch the recording afterwards. No one's going to watch the whole thing through because that's the point of it. And this stream was, I tried to come up with 1,001 new game ideas in 8 hours. I managed 502, I think. I got halfway there at the 8-hour mark and said, okay, I need to duck out now. And yeah, the way I did it, I had like the top 10,000 words in the English language according to Google or something. And so I made myself a little, it was a very simple, I think it was a Unity application, which would show a number and the chosen word, and I press the spacebar to get the next one and increment the number, and that was it. I just press spacebar for my next word, and I have to, maybe it comes up with sausages. All right, I have to come up with an idea for a game about sausages. And that was that came out of a video art piece that I'd done the previous year, which was a 27-hour playthrough of Pokemon Red, where this is going to sound absolutely bizarre, so bear with me.
Okay.
So I like the idea that I'm going off on another tangent.
I don't mind.
I like the idea that that Pokemon was a kind of simulated ecosystem, and part of the simulation is done by our imagination, but it is kind of a simulated ecosystem. There are different species living in different parts of the environment, and each of these species kind of has its own DNA. Mm-hmm. Like the bytes that make up the description of that Pokemon is like its DNA. And I thought, what if I made it so that you could introduce some kind of like the impact of humanity into this ecosystem? Okay. If we could make the poisonous hand of mankind reap through this environment. And so I set it up so that that you could when two Pokemon were fighting, the data from one Pokemon would be transferred to the other, and they would swap around back and forth. And the longer you spent in combat with Pokemon, the more the data, DNA of these creatures would get altered, would get corrupted. But this kind of viral leak of DNA into the environment would also affect the level layout and the graphics and the dialogue, and it was this whole kind of so you basically, as you're going through the game, you're just spreading your kind of infection. And so what it looked like is the game gets increasingly corrupted as you go on. And it was, it would take longer and longer to do every little task. So it would kind of, it was like the heat death of the universe. The idea that, I know I'm sounding absolutely bonkers here, but the idea that this kind of entropy, that's the heat death of the universe, is the idea that at the end of time will be that all the atoms and molecules in the universe will be so disorganized and so disarranged that it will take too much energy to do anything for anything to happen. And that's kind of what the thing was like. So I made it into this whole thing of I was like, okay, then this story needs to end when we get to Lavender Town, because that's the Pokemon graveyard. And so when we get there, we can kind of pay our respects to the world that we have just destroyed.
Yes.
So anyway, I make this as a piece of video art. I was doing an interactive show at an event that was taking place in a gallery, and they had an exhibition. And I said to them, "Well, would you like to show this piece of video art I made as well? I can bring it along." And they said, "Yeah." And I set it up, and everyone walked past it. No one signed up and watched it. And I was watching people walk past, and I was like, yeah. And I know why they're walking past it, because during the heat death of the universe, where everything slows down to a crawl, nothing happens. There's nothing for people to kind of talk about afterwards. There is nothing for people to I realize how bad of a tangent this is. I think I am miles away from answering your question.
Fine.
But anyway, I came away and I was like, it's perfectly fine for people to, walk right past this, because nothing's happening. If you stood and watched this for a minute, and someone asked you to describe what you just seen, you'd be like, I don't know, there were pixels on a screen. And I was like, well, if I want to make that experience, I wanted to make that experience of, the experience I wanted them to have is they go into the gallery, they, see this random thing going on the screen, they watch it for a minute, and then that minute kind of belongs to them, because the piece is so long that they're not going to see, like, the bit of that thing that they've seen is going to be different from what anyone else has seen. There's so many bits, and no one can watch the entire thing. And so I thought, well, why don't I do it instead of using some video game to do this? How about it's me talking through ideas? And if you stay and you watch me talk about coming up with one idea for 1 minute, that's your thing you can go away and talk about. Is that, when did you watch it? I saw it. It must have been the first hour in. He seemed really chirpy and excitable and was talking about a game made of bananas where you put the bananas on the end of your fingers and you type onto a keyboard. What did you say? It was like, I think this was 6 hours in. He looked absolutely exhausted, and I think he was trying to come up with a game about Manchester, and he was just rocking back on his chair back and forth going, Manchester. Happy Mondays, maracas, is that a thing? So anyway, and that was my first stream.
Wow, I love that. That was brilliant.
When you sort of start telling a story and you're like, oh, this will take 30 seconds. Feel free to edit that down /out if you want.
That's staying in. Unless you tell me otherwise anyway, but no.
Viewers, if you have been bored to tears by the last 5 minutes, I sincerely apologize.
Honestly, that was great. No, but it's fascinating though. It really is, and I love that. I mean, again, it shows that creativity, and that unique way of looking at things. You know, in life in general. I mean, like I like this idea as well. Like when you go to see a performance, you know, there's always this like caveat, isn't there? That please don't film this. You know, if you go see like a live musician or a magic show or something like, well, no matter what it is, isn't it? There's that, you know, don't film this because that moment belongs to you then, isn't it? You know, and I love that.
Yes.
And that's kind of what you're doing, but I'd like to, dare I say, on a far bigger scale, really. You know, it's incredible.
I mean, honestly, that's kind of the idea behind the creative streams. I mean, I was talking about the interactive live show I do where I was dressed as Dr. Eggman. Like they're, done another show before that, which was all about games that I'd made that were played up on the big screen, and I get people running around with barcode scanners and having to zap each other on the chest with barcode scanners or throw inflatables around. And, you know, really the idea of that show is that the games, they're these very simple video games, but each of them provides an incentive for you to play the game in a creative way. You know, if you're given an inflatable to throw around a room, you know, choosing, no, I'm going to keep it, I'm going to hug it because it's a cute octopus. Like, that is your creative input in the show. And then you can go away saying, I did that. You know, tonight was the show where someone hugged the octopus. And similar with the painting streams. Like when I do a painting stream, the audience is telling me what to paint and where they want to see it. And, you know, you'll see, if you can see it on the camera, we've got glass bottles, plastic bottles. There's a big circle got cut out of the painting, flipped upside down, and then glued back on with PVA glue. We've got feathers, tin foil, tinsel. There's some not Marmite, peanut butter. I'm pointing to right now. That brown stuff is peanut butter. These are all suggestions that come in from the audience that I'm just kind of bringing to life. And the nice thing about it is, for all the people who took part in this, in the stream, they can say, I did that. You know, that bit of the painting where there's peanut butter, someone can say, I was the peanut butter guy. Yeah. And, you know, and even, you know, whether it's, you know, the end product of the painting or the performance of the piece of that, that 5 minutes where we filled a bottle with paint and then squirted it on. I started that.
Yes.
Yeah, and to me that's very important. I like that idea that everybody gets to, it feels like it belongs to them.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, that's the beauty of Twitch in a nutshell. I think, you know, I think it has your creative and artistic way of demonstrating that. It's a very big emblematic way of how Twitch works, I think, on a basic level. You know, in the end, you know, like someone doing, I don't know, like a subathon, you know, I'll write your name on my balloon, you know, something as simple as that. But that bond between the streamer and the viewer, that's that. But you're doing it on a much bigger scale, and that's what I love about what you're doing. It's really is bringing that together. But it's so beautiful in the way it's done, because it's so visual, and you know, it's live, it's raw, and it's there, and it's just so good. It really is. You know,
thank you very much.
That's amazing. So yeah, So I haven't mentioned it on stream yet about how I discovered you. So I found you through a charity stream I did, because I did a 24-hour stream and I played Sega Mega Drive games, and I tried to beat 12 in 24 hours and failed. But I was just watching someone on Twitch, and they was playing a Mega Drive game, and it was changing every 30 seconds. It's like, what is this? As a viewer, and he went, "Oh, it's Alice's Magic Box." And and that's basically what it was. And then I found you on Twitter, and then I started finding your streams. I was like, oh my god, this guy's so amazing. So talk us about the mod process then, and again, some of the crazy stuff you've made, because I know that's just one of many. And in fact, your tweet back to me was, I don't know if you can do this on anything other than Sonic games. I've never tried. And then I tried that and it worked. But because you just done it on Sonic, I think. I was like, well, I'm trying it on everything.
Right.
But yeah, what are your favourite mods or creative things that you've produced, really?
Well, I mean, yeah, what you just talked about, I call it Alistair's magic box, and it's because it's not just the game switching that it does. It's this whole kind of it's a Sega Mega Drive emulator. It's a hack of Genesis Plus, but what it adds in is all these weird ways that you can interact with the games. And a lot of them will happen on events within the game. So if you're playing Sonic, things will happen when you get a ring. In Micro Machines, something will happen when you overtake someone in a race. In let's say a Shinobi, if you kill an enemy, that'll do something. And these things can be various things. The most popular one seems to be it will switch you into a different game. So you can queue up like 4 Sonic games, and every time you collect a ring, it will switch you into a different Sonic game. So you try to play like 4 Sonic games at the same time. And of course, if you've played Sonic, you'll know he'll go through a loop-de-loop. He'll pick up 10 rings like this. Bam, 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 bam. And so you will get it going. Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic and Knuckles, Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and stuff like that. But you can also set it up so that every time Sonic gets a ring, it writes random data into the level layout. You can set it so that when it switches games, it keeps the video memory from the previous game. So that's all the data that had to do with what graphics should go where and what sprites should be loaded in and things like that. That will be the data from the previous game. So, and that's how I ended up with this hoodie. This is a screenshot made by playing around with that feature. And and just writing arbitrarily into data and trying to get to the end of the game without it crashing. All kinds of wacky stuff. You can make it so that every time Sonic gets a ring, it removes some color from the screen, and all the colors will kind of vanish like a black hole disappearing. Which is kind of that one again. That's one of those kind of artsy ones that sort of I wanted to lean in on that same kind of heat death of the universe thing.
When you mentioned the heat death story, I was thinking of that Sonic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is like It's a metaphor for consumption. I mean, I'll be honest, like, I think this was on my mind subconsciously, but I didn't kind of realize afterwards, until afterwards. But it's that, you can't beat the game if you can't see the game. Trust me, I've tried. I'm sure some people can. I'm sure some very talented people can. I can't beat the game without seeing the game. But you also can't beat the game without collecting rings. And it's like, yes, this consumption is creating destruction, but in order to exist in the universe, in order to progress in your dream as a Sonic Hedgehog, you need to consume. You need to consume the rings. So you need to do the thing that is bad, despite the consequences. And I don't know. I feel like that says something about. Sorry, I sound so pretentious when I say that. No,
you don't. No, it's fascinating. Don't worry.
But I do think there is something kind of interesting there. So, and that's why I make this stuff, kind of hacking around with it. Sometimes I like, I'm hacking around with the game to see what interesting gameplay interactions will happen. Like, I like it when, like, particularly if you write random level layout data into the game while you're running it, you end up making a version of the game and a set of challenges that the game designers would never have thought of on their own, that they didn't intend to be there. And no one knows if these challenges can be beaten. And that means that your process of beating it is entirely your own. You get to own that, because no one designed this challenge as a set of steps for you to go through. This challenge was kind of beating the game where random data gets written into the level while you play. That's like a naturally occurring challenge. That's like climbing a rock face or someone. No one designed a rock face for you to climb. And sometimes it generates like stuff that's nice and visual. Like the hoodie was just taken from a screenshot that I made when hacking around with this stuff. And it's just pleasant. It's just interesting. But also sometimes, I think sometimes you do get something out of it that you go, oh, there's like an artistic idea going on here.
Yes.
And so when I hack around with these things, I generally start with, oh, here's an idea for an interesting effect. And by playing around with it, something will come out of it. Like it might, whether it's artistic, whether it's gameplay, whether it's just purely visual, it's the fun is in the discovery.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that artistic vision you got there, and
thank you.
Yeah, 100%. Like when, that's what art is. It's subjective, but it's also it can be interpreted into so many different ways, and I love that. Like there's not a lot of emphasis on like video games being art. We know that as a general concept anyway, but like modding, I think that at its core is fans with fan service, but also with just interesting twisted ideas about how things could have been. It's like reading a book, and everyone interprets the book so differently. I think that's the closest we've got really with video games to that way of looking at a book, which is something that we never thought was possible really, apart from maybe with like a movie interpretation. But it's fascinating. And modding it's come such a long way. It was such a restricted thing, wasn't it, just even 10 years ago? So it's wow. I love it
totally. But I think there's something nice about it, and I think you see it with like the speedrunning community as well, is because I don't think it's just about like there's an element of kind of reclaiming these objects, games, and saying like, if you change the objective of, say, Super Mario Brothers to beat it in the fastest time possible, and over time and experimentation and community has transformed that experience into something totally different from what the original designers of the games would ever have intended it to be. And it's almost like, that game is not something that kind of, Daddy Nintendo gave to you and said, here, play this the way this wants to be played. It's like, no, this belongs to us, and we have decided how we want to play it and what we want to achieve with it, and and in that process created something that wouldn't have been there before. And I think that is nice. It's communal. It's that lovely idea of community. Mario doesn't belong to a big corporation. Sonic doesn't, Mario does not belong to Nintendo. Sonic does not belong to Sega. Ultimately these things belong to us. And, and as players and just members of the human species, that we can claim these as our own and, find our own things in them. It's, I don't know. There's something I think is just nice about that.
Yeah. Brilliant. I can't believe the time already. It's already been an hour. So it's just to finalise. So in terms of streaming, because your interpretation of streaming is very different to a lot of people I talk to, but in your own way, can you summarise, any advice or any suggestions about anyone thinking about going into the world of streaming, from your different angle at it, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, so like I guess because for me, what I'm doing, I will be playing games, and often, the sort of more traditional games that I'm playing them, with my various hacks and mods, and I'm usually testing them out. And for me, it's a nice kind of proving ground to just kind of explore the ideas, because I will be talking through them as I'm playing. And that's part of their reason for existing is, I make these hacks because I want to find out how they change the game experience. Well, if you're talking about the game experience while you're having it, then you are capturing on record that process, that interesting thing. And I think that sort of, and then with the creativity things, it's it's a whole thing. Where was I going with that? I'm doing the thing of sort of Brain going, yes, I have an idea. I'm like, great, Brain, I'm going to follow you and trust that it goes somewhere. And like, goes where now? No, the idea, like, I kind of wanted to get at is, in a way, it doesn't actually matter whether you have viewers or not. You know, to have this experience, to go through it, to talk through something and play and talk about your experience and use that as a method of unlocking, you know, some part of the playing experience and kind of verbalizing it as a way to understand it better. You know, how does this game work? What is this game doing? You know, like, you don't need an audience for that, but the potential of an audience is really helpful. You know, that you could have that conversation, thinking through what you're doing aloud. You could have that with yourself, but it's a lot easier to have that with yourself. Is there's a potential that someone could walk through and, you know, join your stream at any minute and hear you talking and go, oh God, this is quite interesting. So I'd say, like, don't worry about having viewers because, you know, the chance that you might have viewers is enough to propel you to find interesting interactions, whether that's playing a game, whether that's making a piece of artwork, whether that's writing a piece of poetry, or, you know, or doing a poetry recital, or, you know, playing cello, or whatever it is. Like, I think, yeah, it's a powerful tool. And don't forget, you can always, if you do want an audience, you know, I started out streaming just to friends and family. I would message my friends. I would, you know, I've got various groups of friends on various chatting things. I've got friends on Facebook. I've got friends on Twitter, you know, various WhatsApp groups, whatever, and just message them all to say, oh, I'm about to do this. Here's a link if you want to come and join. You don't need to build a Twitch following to be able to enjoy this stuff and to be able to get something out of streaming.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. I love that chat. Thank you so much, Alistair.
You're welcome.
That was amazing. One more time, then. Can you just tell us where we can find you on your socials?
Yes. So it's AG Aitcheson, which I appreciate is hard to spell. It's AGAITCHESON. And that's the same on Twitch and the same on Twitter. So often if I'm doing a stream, I will kind of, obviously you can follow me on Twitch. That's a good way to find out when I'm streaming. But often I'll you know, if I'm doing like a painting stream or something, I will, you know, say a couple of days in advance or something, oh, I'm planning on streaming, who wants to join me? So that's a good way to find out what's coming up.
Brilliant. Well, everyone get following Alistair. He's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it. That was an incredible chat. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. It's been really nice to be here.
Thanks again. All the best. Right, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.